Well, as you may have guessed from the video title, we are going to be harvesting honey today, which is such a enjoyable and fulfilling process. As a beekeeper, you spend the majority of your time caring and looking after the bees' health and ensuring that they've got what they need to survive all of the elements that are thrown at them throughout the British seasons. And as we come into the end of summer, August time, start of September, tends to be the perfect time to harvest the honey. And to help capture this in a short form video for my social platforms, I have a new toy, which is going to make my life incredibly easy today. So as part of my ongoing partnership with Xiaomi, I introduce the Xiaomi Zoom Floor Selfie Stick Tripod 62-inch. Yes, it is a 2-in-1. This tiny little bit of kit only weighs 400 grams, and so I'm going to be using this with my phone today to capture the process of me harvesting the honey. Now, this little bit of kit, as we're moving more and more into self-created content, is going to be a game changer for me. I do a little bit of traveling, as you know. I don't always have the luxury of having someone with me to help create content. Lydia does a lot of self-creation content at home in the garden as well. And this bit of kit here is about to make my life a lot easier, both at home and out and about. So essentially, to get this thing up and running, you just push at the base here. It pops out the tripod legs, which have got silicone bases on, which helps for support. And then you've got this telescopic section, which goes 62 inches, which is about 1.6 meters, perfect for standing up and talking to the camera. And then on the feet here, you can see we've got a magnetic detachable Bluetooth device, which gives you the ability to record or take pictures whilst you're away from the camera, which is incredibly handy, particularly when you've got beekeeping gloves on and it's hard to touch the screen on a phone. I can now just press this button, so this is going to be very, very handy today. So that just clips in there, and I just link that by simply Bluetoothing it. Nice and easy. On top we have the phone mount. Now that has a little adjustable section depending on the size of your phone, and it also has the ability to tilt 45 degrees and 90 degrees, so you can film landscape or portrait, or if you're slightly on uneven ground, you can tilt this to try to get a nice straight shot. We have a mount just here, so if you wanted to attach a light or a microphone, you can do on this. And it also has a nice little convenient travel bag for you to just pack it all in. I think one of the things that I really like about this is that the actual phone holder isn't detachable, so it's just all compact in one place. You don't have to worry about grabbing different parts to make this thing work. And it is just so quick to assemble and disassemble, which again is really important when you're creating content, just have that speed whilst you're out and about. It feels great as well. So I'm very happy with this, and I'm looking forward to putting this to the test today, because trust me, it's not easy to get somebody to help film you whilst you're opening up a beehive. And as always, if you would like to check out the tripod, then do check out the links in the description box down below. We are going to head outside. I'm going to give you a quick update actually on the cup and saucer plant, and then we're going to get busy harvesting. So let's do this. Well, as promised, here is a little update on the cup and saucer plant. As you can see, it started to climb up. However, it's only halfway, but it's done pretty well considering the size of it when we started a couple of months ago. We've started to flower, so this is, of course, where cup and saucer comes from. There'll be lots more flowers that will come, but I thought I'd give you an update in this video. It's looking pretty good, and so far the support wires are giving it good support for growth. And also you'll see that the hydrangea has started to turn, which I think is just a really nice transition as we're coming out the back of summer and into autumn. It's just like the perfect colour, so that looks really nice as well. But anyway, that's the cup and saucer. We are going to be doing something very exciting today, and it's all thanks to this little chap here. Well, it is an absolutely lovely day. As you can hear, lots of people are out busy doing some DIY projects, and I'm going to be doing one of my own. We're going to be harvesting honey today, which I think is my third time harvesting in the 4 years I think I've been beekeeping for. And each year I learn little tricks and ways in which I can make this process as streamlined, as efficient, as enjoyable, and as easy as possible for the bees as well. And so I've incorporated some little techniques and some little tricks to make this a little bit smoother. And one of the things that I've done which will particularly help the bees is I've already been out to the colonies and I've already inspected and checked the honey storage in the brood box. Now, one of the big questions, or one of the big conversations when people are harvesting honey from colonies is, why are you taking all of the honey from the bees? They've worked really hard for it. Absolutely, they've worked incredibly hard for it. And of course, it is our responsibility as beekeepers to ensure that bees are left with enough honey storage to get them through winter. Honeybees will continue to store honey. The more space you give them, the more they'll fill it up. It's a little bit like us with our loft spaces. The more space you have, the more you'll just fill it up with stuff. And so I'm ensuring that there is enough honey left in the colony for the bees to overwinter, and the supers that are on top will be removed and taken off, and that is where I will harvest the honey from. And so first and foremost, the bees will be absolutely fine. I have had a fantastic success rate with my colonies. I've never lost any colonies, and they've always thrived each and every year, which is good times. And so the plan today is I don't need to actually go in to inspect the brood box. I might pull out a frame just to show you the bees, just so you can take a look and see them working on one of the frames, and I'll be able to actually extract and harvest straight from the back of the hives using the flow frames without interrupting the bees during that process. In previous years, I've taken the super off, I've inspected the brood box, the bees are flying everywhere, I then put the super back on and I'm trying to harvest the honey whilst all the bees have been interrupted and they're flying around, and it's a little bit chaotic, and then the bees start trying to come into the honey jar where I'm harvesting into, then they get stuck in it and I have to scoop them out, and it's a bit of a process, a bit of a palaver. So I've come up with a new system where I think I did this on my last harvest. I've drilled 3 holes in the top of a big jar. I screw the jar on so the bees can't go in and get stuck in the honey, and then I extract directly from the back of the supers into this jar. It's a clean, efficient, and tidy way of harvesting, and because I won't be going into the brood box, the bees won't be flying around like crazy wondering what's going on. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the smoothest harvest to date. And then I spent my morning this morning sterilising the jars, so I give them a wash and sterilise them, and then I stick them in the oven and ensure that they're nice and clean, so when the honey's going into there, they're not going to get any bacteria growth and so on. So that's all been prepped this morning. I brought some new filters because you do sometimes get a little bit of wax capping, and occasionally where the bees have accidentally left like a little fly or something inside the honey. It's very rare, but does happen, and so having a filter that you can just filter the honey through before they go into the jars is a process that I incorporate into my harvesting process. Now, of course, what I'm doing is very different to traditional harvesting where you spin the frames out, because I have the flow matrix system, which is a patented design from father and son in Australia. They're actually continuously innovating and changing the way in which beekeeping is done, and it actually is making it a lot more accessible. It's quite fun and enjoyable. They're definitely a company that have shaken up the beekeeping world a little bit. Everybody has their different opinions and takes. Of course, it's change, and so I'm somebody that's tried to adopt it and utilise it over here in the UK, and my report is that it's been a fantastic system. It's worked. I've never had any issues with honey crystallising or getting stuck inside the matrix. The summers over here are getting hotter and hotter, and so it's been quite a lovely hive to have. Its size is called a Langstroth, which is bigger than a national, and a national is a UK size hive. So the only difficulty that I've found with this particular beehive is that the access to parts are a little bit harder. So if I'm looking for, say, a new floor because I want to expand, or I'm looking for a new matrix system for additional supers and so on, sometimes the stock just isn't available, and their UK distribution centre is often out of stock in product, which means that it takes a little bit longer to get hold of things, or in some cases you have to improvise and try and buy other brands' equipment to see if you can retrofit it to work with your hive. And so that's the only gripe I guess I'd have with the flow, is simply access to materials, but it's been great. And I think, like I said, I've cracked the code where I'm being as efficient as possible by ensuring that I'm preparing as much as I can up to this day, because harvesting honey can be a long process. Traditionally, people would probably spend a day harvesting, and I'm hoping to cut that in half. So the first job today is to get the smoker prepped. The smoker's purpose, I guess, is to try to calm the bees because it blocks pheromones and signals to threat, which means that the bees become less aggressive. It also imitates a fire, and so the bees go and feed on the honey storage, which results in them being full and more lethargic. And it also helps clear areas. So when you're trying to inspect a frame, smoke can sometimes help clear the bees away from it. They move to the other side of the brood box, which means that when you're pulling the frame out, you're less likely to roll bees, less likely to squish bees, and also you can see what you're actually looking at in the cells as opposed to having bees covering all over them. So that's the purpose. Today we're not going to be doing a huge amount of brood inspection, as I mentioned, and so I'm going to be using the smoker to clear the top of the brood box as I'm putting the crown board back on and the roof back on, because as I say, it will help clear the bees away from the area, so I'm not going to squish them when I'm putting the hive back together again. So it's for that reason, and I also have it on side just in case for some unknown reason the bees start going absolutely crazy and I need to just give them a little smoke. So we're going to do that first and then we'll move our way over. I'm going to run this as a time lapse, which is why I'm talking quite a lot now. I'm going to be filming this as a reel as well, and so I'll probably be a little less conversational whilst we're up there, but you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and if I do get an opportunity to grab the vlogging camera and talk through say the harvesting of the actual honey, of course I will do. And then I will bring the honey back in. We will do a quick test as well whilst I'm up there to test the what's the word I'm looking for, Ali? Water percentage in the honey. So we're looking at around about 18%. So we're going to be checking that, but as a rule of thumb, if the cell is capped, the honey is ready. When the cells aren't capped, then the honey's still being dehydrated, and so it isn't ready to harvest. And as I said, I had a little look the other day, we're capped across, so we're good to go. But it's better to just check anyway, jar it, filter it, and then gift it out to all of our neighbours and friends. So let's get going. This is really cool. Right here we have the super, and if we open up this inspection window, you'll be able to see the honeybees have fully waxed the comb, and so that is a fantastic sign that we're ready for harvest. This is exactly what you want to see. Typically they work from the inside to the outside, so if the outside wall is capped, then there's a very good chance that the majority of the centre, if not all of it, is already capped as well. But as I said, we'll test anyway, make sure that our water percentage levels are correct before we get too carried away. Just a little update, this is our first jar, almost full, looking lovely and golden. And as you can see, there isn't much happening around the rear of the hive, nor are there many bees out and about anyway. There are a couple of wasps lingering around, but in general it's very calm back here, and I think that this system has proven to work very efficiently. A new jar is on, and we have completed our first harvest of the day. So now this hive's been harvested, we are going to put the entrance reducer on, which will just help with the robbing that is currently taking place from the wasps that are lingering around. I've seen quite a lot, to be honest with you, and so this will just help the guard bees on the landing strip protect the stores and also the colony. I have hung out the super frames a little bit away from where the hives are, just so the capping that has been left on, they can take that and utilize that. It will also take robbers away from the hives because that's an easier source of food, so they'll be feeding off of that and taking the residue and leftover honey. All in all, we should be looking pretty good for now. We'll just stick that entrance reducer on and we'll be good to go. This year I've decided to take harvesting outside, so I've got two stools. I'm going to balance my little filter on top, pour the big jar of honey into the small jars below, and hopefully the wind doesn't take over. So a question that I often get asked is, how much honey do you get from a beehive? Well, judging by this harvest, a Langstroth hive would produce around about 28 jars of honey, jam jars that is. We currently have just transferred one large jar from the harvest of the first colony. We actually have 2 jars in total from that one hive, and so I think we've got around about 13 jars here to 14, because one has a kilner. I'm not sure on how much storage is in that kilner. Well, I finished off harvesting the honey, and it is time to add the final touch. So a couple of years ago, Lydia, my wife, did an incredible job of designing some stickers for us to attach onto the jars, particularly for gifting. And I have 2 options. I think I'm going to be going for a little bit of a mix. I love them both. This one here feels a little bit more autumny, and this feels a little bit more sort of spring, summertime. So we have the florals, we have the little bee in there. They both say essentially from our kitchen garden, the Millen Gordons, and they've just got a really nice textured backing to them. I'm not sure if you're picking up on the camera, but they're just really nicely done with a little bit of gold detailing on there as well. So I'm going to get these stuck onto the jars, and that'll be a good job done. Here we have 2 complete jars with the different stickers on. Let me know which sticker you prefer, left or right. Should we say ivy or spring summer floral? This is spring summer floral, this is ivy. I've added I can't actually remember what they're called, the little wooden honey sticks, because
there's something around putting metal in honey and the enzymes and it affecting it, so it's always advised that you use wood. And I've just tied those onto the blue gingham jars, which Lydia wanted this year, and I think they look really nice. So these two are ready for gifting. We've had a very successful year. I've got around about 60 jars from the colonies. As you can see, I've already been busy stickering up and getting these all prepped. So happy. And the bees are doing great as well. So things are going very well in the beekeeping world for me at the moment. And I'm very happy with how it's all sort of turning out, and it's feeling easier and easier as each year goes on. There's a bit more of a flow, and I get to learn new little tricks each time, as I said. So
that completes the harvest of 2025, and I'm over the moon with how it's gone. And we're very grateful for the bees for the hard work that they do throughout the year, and to be able to produce these lovely jars of golden nectar for us to enjoy. I think the bees have had a very good year for their health. I'm not sure whether it's to do with the colonies or whether it's just to do with the environment, for example, the weather. However, I have noticed that there's a huge reduction in varroa mite within the colony, which is a mite essentially that lives on the back of the bee's thorax. I have spoke about it in previous content before. And we treat for it in the UK, and to be honest with you, in lots of areas around the world, varroa is a problem for honeybees, and so we manage it with a treatment typically after the harvest, so ahead of overwintering, the bees get treated for it. I will continue to treat my bees, but there is just such a reduction this year from previous years, and I'm not sure what's influenced that, but it's fantastic news. The third colony I didn't end up harvesting from, they had a second brood box put onto their hive probably mid-summer, and they've utilised that to store all of their honey in, which is fantastic, and I just whipped the super off because there was nothing in it. So that one has just been taken off. They're ready for overwintering. They've got enough stores to last them 4 seasons. And the 2 colonies that I did harvest honey from, I've removed the supers from those now, and I've put these boxes on called eeks. Essentially it's just an empty wooden frame, and inside there I put 2 large round feeders. So they're like large circular feeders that sit on top of the crown board. I had the equivalent of one of those full jars full of excess honey, and so I took half of the jars from each of the colonies' harvest and I actually back fed it to the bees, which means that they're going to be able to draw off their own honey stores from the top of the feeder for the months to come. So everybody's winning this year. The bees have got ample honey for them and some. I've got ample honey for me and some, and so it's been a very successful year with the honeybees. And I have to say, every single year the process gets easier, and I come up with little ideas to simplify and speed up the process. Honey harvesting outside I won't be doing again. I did have a couple of wasps that kept on coming over and sometimes would find themselves in the honey, and also sometimes flies were coming over, and the occasional bit of wind was catching the honey dripping down and kicking it off the side of the jar, and then it just gets a little bit sticky. And so it's a lot easier to do it inside. And I've also gone back to sticking the triple filter system in. So I've got this circular sieve essentially, which is a double sieve. Then I have that net that you saw that I was using, and that helps slow down the speed at which the honey comes out, so I'm able to have more control over adjusting the jars so there's less spillage, less wastage, and it isn't as messy. Next year will be even easier again, and I look forward to doing another year of beekeeping here at the house. But that wraps up this week's video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always I'll leave all of the relevant details in the description box below if you do have any questions, because I don't step by step cover the process of harvesting like a tutorial. I just kind of do a bit of an overview to give you a bit of a gist and an idea of the process that I undertake. If you do have any questions, let me know and I'll do my best to get back to them. But have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.